My mic sounds nice, check one. My mic sounds nice, check two. Power. It starts with P like pussy. She knows she's got it. She doesn't worry, does she? Spending your cash, leaving you in the trash. While your little head's thinking they going in a dash. They got it, know it. That's why they show it. The power of sex. If man could overthrow it, he'd be king in a day. No way. We get rich, hard. Give it away. We're weak, and as we speak. The girls are hawking, sizing me up straight out as I'm talking. You gotta have control if you want to go. I don't want to be alone like Stallone. So I keep my mind thinking about the green and stop dwelling on the in-between. Welcome to the For Real Though Show, the podcast with a purpose for the peoples. I'm your host, Christopher Keith. Thank you for joining us. Do all of the things, like, subscribe, comment, write us, let us know what you're thinking. We appreciate it. Get that algorithm going. So that was a little bit of Ice-T, Power, 1988. And before that, a little MC Light, just kind of to get myself started. I'm not a rapper like Ice-T or MC Light. Shout out to the Light. Uh, but I thought it was apropos for the subject that we're talking about today. So as we get into it, I'm gonna tell you what brought me to the idea. I'm not usually into pop culture. Like, okay, so I know kind of what's going on when I hear it or see something online about pop culture, but I'm not really one to like dive into it. I think it's something I should go into in terms of this podcast. However, I thought the larger uh, lesson came from a pop culture moment. So I'm gonna share it with you where I got it from. But unless you were under a rock in the last few weeks, and this is kind of old news, it's a little dated, but this is Meg the Stallion, or Meg the Stallion, probably I should say it that way, uh, and Klay Thompson. So Klay Thompson is a guy, he plays in the NBA, used to be a Golden State Warrior. Now he's a Dallas Maverick. Not sure what he's going to be next year. And Meg Thee Stallion's obviously a very famous female rapper. So they were dating. If you're were not under a rock, you know this. If you were, or just not hip, I'll give you a little bit of the scoop here. They were dating really seriously. And she posted this on her Instagram not too long ago. I will read it for you. Cheating had me around your whole family playing house. Got cold feet, in quotations, holding you down through all of your horrible mood swings and treatment towards me during your basketball season. And now you don't know if you can be monogamous? Bitch, I need a real break after this one. Bye, y'all. So, uh, yo, I thought about that. Not really what she said per se, but I was tripping off the reactions of a lot of people that I heard after that. Specifically, men. Specifically men, black men, okay? And in particular, and I came across this post that a friend of mine shared from somebody else. And I'm going to read that thing for you because this kind of it's a good illustration of the way a lot of black men's reactions were. Not all, but certainly some. So this is from someone named Dane Diesel, Dhanediesil. And so I'm going to read to you exactly what he said. Quote, the Clay and Meg situation highlights a hard truth many women still refuse to accept. Behavior precedes outcomes. If a woman chooses to behave like a party girl or hoe, most men would treat her exactly that way. Fun, for a good time, maybe even public appearances or introductions to friends and family, but rarely as someone for a serious, committed relationship. Men will enjoy her company and her body, but they won't stop entertaining other women like her. Why would they? She has already shown she operates in that lane. At the same time, many women openly say that quote unquote broke men don't deserve relationship or intimacy. That mindset quietly accepts that rich, high value men can have as many women as they want because they can afford to. The logic is simple and consistent. Number one, I kind of added the one in there. He puts a little what do you call it? A like a bullet point. So he makes a bullet point. Bullet point one. Act like a traditional woman. Loyal, modest, selective, feminine. Attract traditional outcomes. Commitment, respect, long-term investment. Bullet point two, act anti-traditional, in parentheses, hypersexualized, party lifestyle, low boundaries, get an anti-traditional outcome, in parentheses, fun, attention, casual sex, but rarely exclusivity or marriage from high value men. You cannot behave like Meg has in the public eye for years, openly embracing a wild, hypersexual brand, and then expect traditional, high commitment results from men simply because you're attractive. Pretty is not a strategy. Behavior is. Excuse me. If you want traditional respect and traditional commitment, you must behave in the traditional, respectable ways. No exceptions. Delusion sets in when someone believes they can live like a modern party girl and still demand the treatment of a traditional wife. Outcomes don't lie. They always reflect the behavior that came first. End quote. So that's a lot. That's a lot. Um, yeah, that's a lot. And I think you could do a whole college class on the things that he said. That he wrote there. And like the first thing that comes to me, like I'm not going to deal with everything he said, but I'm just deal with some of it. First of all, my first thought, I don't know about you and hearing it, but when I read it, I was like, boy, that's some patriarchal ass shit. And so the person who posted it, a friend of mine, I had commented on this particular post and I was like, yo, I'm like, because when he made the statement, the friend who posted it wrote a caption of his own and it said, "This is how men think." And he wasn't saying it like as a criticism of this is how men think. He was saying it like, hey, this is how men think, like cool. So women like as if women need to understand this is how men think. And so I commented, I was like, well, yeah, men are thinking wrong because, why is it that first of all, you don't know Meg Thee Stallion, right? If you've never met her, then you don't know her. All you know is her art, right? That's like saying, like NWA, all them dudes was killing the police because they said fuck the police and had a lot of gunshots and stuff like that. That's like saying that they're all drug dealers, you know what I mean? Because they are their art, which, or like Denzel Washington is really a gladiator. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's number one. That's false. And number two, while brothers is out here, men in general, period, sticking and moving all over the place, they never think to themselves, that like they don't have a word to call themselves hoes. They only want these women to take this label, whereas the man's behavior means nothing. The next thing I thought, as far as Meg is saying, is she saying, hey, you got me around your people playing house, you know, and then you say you can't be monogamous. So the issue was whatever was going on between them, he gave her another impression. He told her something different than what they quote unquote agreed to and talked to. Obviously, because or else she wouldn't have had to have that expectation that, he was doing more than playing house. Uh, so now, so you have another male who's never met Meg, who's never met Clay, who don't know nothing about their situation other than what's posted on the internet, posted by her because he never said anything. So it's either A, she either telling the whole damn truth, or B, she lying like a motherfucker, but he just is taking the high road and not saying nothing, right? So I tend to believe she telling the truth. So I mean, even going on with somebody say talk about your horrible mood swings during the season, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Meaning that she was dealing with this brother uh, in a wifey type of way because yeah, his career is coming down to an end. He don't get as many minutes as he used to. He's not the same defensive player as he used to be, and his career is coming to an end. He's about to stop doing something that he's had to do all of his life. And so she's dealing with him and giving him grace based on that. It's a whole nother story, right? And again, this focus isn't on Clay. It's not on Clay. This is about the men and their interpretations and how they see women and how they want to control the box, if you will. That's what Mama used to call it. So for the purpose of the podcast, I use the word pussy when I quoted Ice-T. To not be gratuitous, I'm going to change the name. Okay. Because I don't think you have to quote unquote cuss for the sake of cussing. So so I won't say pussy. I would use the word powwow or something like that, right? All right. So, but anyway, on on this hypocritical shit that men think and that men have put black women through all these years, I finna stand up for some black women. But and the way I do that is I'm gonna explain to you like kind of what's going on here. I think that's the more interesting conversation. It's not about Meg, it's not about Clay. It's about black men's attitude toward women who they feel like are not pure enough for them to consider. Like meanwhile, they want to screw everything, right? Like they mad at Meg for singing about, I'm sorry, I'm about to say it again, singing about wet ass pussy, but they like wet ass pussy. So when a man talks about sticking, moving, fucking, screwing, doing all the things he does in music and hip hop and everything else, oh, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? That's cool. When a woman owns it and says, "Yeah, I got the wet ass pussy, and I'm gonna do this to you, I'm gonna do that to you," like the man, he gonna fuck her up and down. Let me lick you up and down till you say stop. Like, so he can do all that shit and it's cool. But when a woman says it, then she's a hoe. See, that's a problem. But there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. So let me give you my my interpretations of why I believe this happens. Because I'm sort of an anthropologist. You know what I mean? I ain't go to school. But I'm not a doctor like Dr. Cheyenne, whatever her name is. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to get out here and brag on bona fides, other than the fact that I pay attention. That's it. I'm just an observer of people. So anyway, here's my theory. So a lot of it does have to do with Ice-T's song. What was it called? Power, power, empire, right? And the fact of the matter is, men run the world, for the most part, right? Most people in leadership are men, right? Men make laws, they start companies, they name streets, they create holidays, laws, right? In society, in every society, right? They even call themselves alphas, right? And if a woman's an alpha, then they call her a bitch, right? So another thing, right? I'm gonna drop these little breadcrumbs of all these little inconsistencies, okay? But real talk, most societies are patriarchal, right? Very few women in charges of nation, right? In charge of nations, right? As a matter of fact, it's January 1st, 2026. Women are women. Okay, let me start over. As of January 1st, 2026, there are 28 countries in the world that are led by women in terms of being heads of state. Okay. From a historical perspective, 101 countries have never had a woman as head of state or government. Okay. And if you were to project at this pace, right? At this pace, gender gender equality in the highest positions of power would not be achieved for another 130 years. Okay. So, again, just even keep in mind, like my mother, who will, by the time you see this, will have just turned 82. Like my mother back in the day could not have a credit card. Like I remember when a vacuum salesman or an insurance person came to the house when I was a kid, and they would say, "Is the man of the house home?" Like this is in my lifetime. Okay, I remember this. And then like my mother could not buy the thing without my father's permission. Okay, so she could not legally have a credit card. Like they would not like Visa, MasterCard, American Express. You can't get one in my lifetime. Okay, I remember this. Okay, so so again, then that gives you a little bit of just like the patriarchy in this country that was just considered normal. Like it was considered normal as if it should be like that's the way it should be. Okay. So again, men, they run a lot of shit. But the one thing that they want more than any of these things they can do in the marketplace, I don't care how much power they get. I don't care how many things they name. I don't care how many cars they have, how much money they got. You know what they want most? They want that powwow, right? And the powwow is so powerful, right? Many men have fallen seeking the powwow. Okay. You know the cast, like, a lot of my listeners are Christians, right? So most of us grew up in some sort of church or whatever, right? Got a little biblical history, right? Solomon, Samson, David, you know, like even Adam, right? According to the Bible, the serpent convinced Eve to eat of the forbidden fruit, right? But who convinced Adam? It's the one with the powwow, right? Samson, you know, could kill 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of an ass, right? And what happened with him? It was the powwow. The powwow person with the powwow was like, Samson, Samson, how do we take your power away? And here he is, like, he loved this woman. He's so enveloped with this woman that he actually gives her the answer. Well, if you cut my hair off, I ain't gonna have no powers. Oh, you bullshitting, Samson. Why, I thought you loved me. I thought you loved me. Tell me, tell me, tell me. So, first, if you know the story, first he tell a few lies and stuff at first. And then, every time the Philistines come, he kills them all. And then she'd be like, oh, see, you was bullshitting me. Why don't you tell me the real deal? And then he told her some other story. And then they all came in to kill him. And then he beat their asses again. And so finally, it was like, you don't love me. You don't love me. Tell me, tell me, tell me. So when he finally told her, she didn't believe him. He told her again. And then they she cut his hair off, and then they came and got his ass, right? So the powwow is what I'm saying. So here's a man who knows the woman is setting him up. And he's the strongest motherfucker in the world. I'm sorry. He's the strongest mother bleep in the world. Shout out Jerome Noble. I'm trying. Okay. Uh, but he gives her the keys because of the power. It's the powwow. It's the powwow. That's how powerful it is, right? This goes on modern day. Mark Sanford. Remember, he had the powwow in Brazil, South America, right? Bill Clinton, right? You know all the celebrities and preachers who've been caught up, right? And even in spite of like you even got technology, right? You got sex dolls. You can like buy or create, like you can buy a sex doll, right? But that sex doll does not have a living, breathing, soft, wet, supple powwow. It doesn't. And since man cannot make one, he desires what's next, best for him, which is to control one. Yes, yes, control one. He wants to control one. Why is this? How did he get this? Well, several reasons, but mostly it deal with patriarchy, right? Patriarchy. And, one of the great vehicles of patriarchy is religion. Okay. Um, comes to Christianity, in the hard right, the evangelical brand, which is, extended to black churches. Most of all denominations have adopted a very prudish views on sex. Okay. And we really don't talk about, sex much in church outside of telling people that sex outside of marriage is a sin, not to have sex with the same sex as you, man on man, female on female, or, shout out Harrison Bucker, that sex is only for birthing out them babies, right? And, and so if you look at it again, all these religions have not only they curtailed the talk of sex, healthy sex or whatever, about it, also become very prudish to where sex is such a mystery, or that they want to control the sex. You got to get married first, or the main things for sex is not about pleasure. It's about birthing them babies, you know, uh, what they call it, uh, being fruitful and multiplying, right? And so, even in like you look at Kojic circles, right? Real conservative circles, like they got the women wearing dresses telling you what to wear and this and the other. Now, men don't have none of these rules, but the women have all these things, right? Okay. Islam, if you look at Islam, right? Not all of Islam, but certain parts of Islam, like look at the Nation, Nation Islam, for instance, and some more conservative pieces. And when I say conservative, I'm always going to mean, because always going to go back to when you talk about conservatives, really it just means to me backwards and it means control. So when I say conservative, it's going to mean it's going to put some limitations on some people. In this case, women, in terms of their dress, right? They got to cover their heads, cover their, damn near, some of them cover their faces, but cover their heads, generally cover their bodies. And I've heard brothers in a nation, a friend of mine, like I seen him do a video and he was like, saying that the women need to cover their bodies because they don't want to tempt the men. So as the men won't be tempted. And when he said that, I'm thinking to myself, you mean to tell me you're a leader, a righteous man of God, and you can't control your sexual urges because you saw a woman's imprint of her breast or her behind, right? You can't lose your damn mind because you see a woman with curves. See, that's a Western culture thing. That's an American thing, right? That's a prudish thing. Because see, if it's true that seeing titties and booties and hips and hair is gonna flip you out because you can't help yourself, then why is it? Why is it that in several indigenous groups in remote like parts of the Amazon rainforest, for instance, or sub-Saharan Africa or the South Pacific, they continue to live with partial or total nudity as daily norms. So these women walking around, it ain't nothing to them. You know what I'm saying? The men ain't raping them. They ain't sitting there looking at them. You know what I'm saying? They're not dealing with those issues. They're not tripping. They're not foaming at the mouth and can't control themselves, right? But see, they got the warm climate. They're adapted, right? It's only this, again, Western standard culture, right? Western civilized culture, if you will. And think about even rape culture, right? Oh, so let me go back before I hit that. So again, if these other men are not looking at it that way, then what is the difference between you and them? So if they seeing breast every day, what is the issue? And then think about rape culture. And I said this publicly before, and I'm not naming names, but every significant woman in my family, everyone that I know of, with the exception of maybe one, because we ain't had the conversation, has had some form of sexual assault or abuse in their lives. Okay. Now, none of them dressed provocatively during that time. Okay. Um, Nor did they do any of the things that men say when they say they deserve it. Or how many times have you heard a man say back in the day, she had it coming. She knew what it was. Again, that's patriarchy. And hell, maybe she did and changed her mind. But remember, rape isn't about sex. It's about what? Power. It's about power and control. Talk about women in their bodies is wild because I remember growing up, it was very common for my mother to walk around the house naked. you know, not just necessarily as a like just the middle of the day or anything, but like when she get up and go to work, or she was preparing to go to work or to go to church, and me and my sister was getting ready to go to school or to church, like it was nothing like for her to just stand up in the bathroom, put her makeup on, butt ass naked, right? And I remember my grandmother said something to her about it. She was like, Scarlett, you can't be doing that. That one. Chris see you, this, that, and the other. And my mom was like, ain't no shame. It's a body. And I don't want him, be wondering what a woman got. I don't want him looking at the girl's skirts and all this other kind of stuff. So really, like, she liberated me from the beginning. I just never tripped off of it. I never tripped off of it. Um, because it's the way I was raised. But we're so prudish, and again, that's why, it's that so many layers to this about, again, control, control, control. We're so prudish, but we're really hypocrites about it too. We'll get to that. So again, let's talk about, like let's shift a little bit, when it talks about dating. The brother was saying in his note that I read earlier, he was talking about how, women, who want these kind of men, where, uh, if they want commitment, then they can't be hoes and that kind of thing. And again, he's calling his sister a hoe without even knowing her. You know what I'm saying? Now he ain't said shit about Clay. Because the onus on, as far as he's concerned, is on the woman, right? I think I covered that, but yeah, okay. But I keep going back to it because I have to keep pointing out the hypocrisy. So here's a theory on why men are so salty when a woman owns her powwow. And to the same degree, I'll put it this way: when a woman runs her powwow the same degree that a man runs his pee-wee or his penis, right? Um, like so think about the man who wrote the post, right? And his thoughts, and it's reflective of many sentiments of many men because again, a lot of these men were, signifying. They was like, yeah, that's right, that's right, that's right. You're right. Tell him, brother, this, that, and the other. Women, y'all want a good man. You gotta act like a queen and this, that, and the other. But there are reasons for it. So when you think about the act of sex, like do you have like the penetrative and the receptive? This is my theory as to why men, are controlling the powwow and why it just drives them nuts. So there you got the initiator and you got the receiver, right? In terms of the organs, right? Obviously, the action versus the acceptance, right? Uh, and so he's the initiator, and because of patriarchy, men feel that they have a sense of entitlement. The old adage, think about it: a man is showing his wild oats, right, before he settles down. And he doesn't get a reputation as a reputational stain when he out there in them streets or the scarlet letter that a woman gets, right? I guess when he go to take a shower, he can wash his off, right? It gives him the impression that, you know, uh, being out here in these streets, laying pipe all over your city, your state, your country, that it's just way more carnal, primitive, and insignificant, right? So, he ain't worried about his body count. But a woman, now see, she's the receiver. She's the receiver. And in order for her to receive a man, she has to open herself up, right? She has to open up and allow him, right? She has to allow that man to penetrate her, right? So, in the imagination of a man, the act itself is totally different, you know, than like say from a woman's perspective, right? That's why if you look at like a lot of times if you hear like of infidelity and stuff like that, just in a very general 10,000 foot above ground sense, right? When it comes to infidelity and couples that deal with that, it ain't across the board, but many women will say, like, if a man goes out and cheat, he screws another woman or whatever, a lot of women will be like, when they're deciding whether they want to be with this man again or whether they want to give him a second chance, they'll say something like, did he love her? Do you love her? Do you love her? Right? And if a man is like, no, baby, it was just sex, I was just weak at the time and, I was out here on my bullshit, you know what I mean? And so, okay, well, if you don't love her, then, if we could correct his behavior, then maybe we can, work something out, right? So, for a woman, you know, even herself, she knows, hey, is this man in love? Then that could really fuck with me. If it's just about sex, well, I can give him more sex. You know what I'm saying? As long as he don't love her, right? But then when you look at a man, he don't give a damn about whether this woman love this dude or not, because it's that opening theory. It's that opening up theory that she has to receive. She has to open her legs and let him come in. You know what I'm saying? So that very act, as far as he's concerned, trespasses on his property, something that belongs to him, right? Again, you could look at two people who have affairs, like a man and a woman. Y'all both had an affair. So she willing to forgive you, but you ain't willing to forgive her. You know why? Because that's what it is. Because again, a man is gonna go into his imagination. He gonna be like, is he better than me? Is he bigger than me? You know what I'm saying? So he's all on this other shit that the woman may or may not even be thinking about in terms of what's her priority. Whereas her main thing is are you in love? You know what I'm saying? So she's thinking permanent, he thinking on some temporary shit. He don't even care about the love, you know. And again, like again, it's just all goes back to the prudeness of religion, and how it just got us all boxed up. So uh if you watch my podcast, you know that I'm late on everything. When it comes to TV shows, I'm late on everything. I was late on The Wire. I was late on Breaking Bad. I was late on Better Call Saul. I was late on Game of Thrones. Like, these are all shows I enjoy, but I was just late on them. You know what I'm saying? I told you I'd be behind on pop culture. But so I started watching Handmaid's Tale lately after some people very dear to me told me, yeah, Chris, you need to watch. You need to watch it. Told me for months. So I started watching it. And if you haven't, you should, because that is definitely where a lot of men today would like this shit to be. And one of the things that tripped me out about the sexual suppression and the hypocrisy of religion as it relates to sex, um, is this one particular scene, right? So, Handmaid's Tale is basically a story, spoiler alert, it's basically a story about, how all these Christian men, you know, have their own society and they just all about following their religion code to the strictest sense in terms of society, not just society, not themselves, but society. And then the way they present themselves to society is like this big ass farce, right? And if they can't have babies, for the women who aren't married and women that can't have babies if they're married, then they bring in a handmaid. The handmaid is there to birth them babies. And the husband who can't have babies for whatever reason. Maybe it's him, maybe it's his wife, but they still got to reproduce because they got to produce these white kids to keep this thing going. And so, so how do they justify the whole having sex with the handmaid? Because they ain't doing this shit by they ain't doing intro fertilization, right? They ain't doing that. They doing the old fashioned fucking. So, but they put a caveat in it. So first of all, they call it a ceremony. So when a woman is ovulating in this time, they got all this shit like scientifically down. Yes, about this time, you know, you're ovulating now. So now we're gonna go into the ceremony. And the ceremony is when the commander of the house goes in, kind of like Abraham, and Sarah. And Hagar, well, go in there to my hand servant, go in there to my handmaid. So he goes in there with her, but there's like a caveat, right? Because it can't really be like, y'all can't be like fucking for fun or nothing. So the woman is there, like the wife is there to sit on the bed. And then I know it sounds ridiculous, but watch it. If you ain't seen it, you gotta check it out. So the woman is sitting there, the wife, she's sitting on the bed, and then the handmaid is laying in her lap. Okay. So she's laying in her lap. The man comes in with a full fucking suit on, okay, tuxedo or whatever, because it's a ceremony. It's holy, right? Takes his pants off, he gets hard and lifts the girl's skirt up. So he starts, and there he goes. He's a humping. He's a humping. And the woman, she's just a poor handmaid. She's just laying there because she just got to take it. She ain't got no choice in the matter, right? She ain't got no choice. And the wife is standing there so she could be in charge to make sure that she has some say, some autonomy to say that, hey, he ain't really fucking her. He really just busting the nut so he can give her a child. I know it sounds crazy. I know it's insane. But this is what religion does. This is how like religion and control, like people will fix themselves up to say anything. Like they really will. So he's sitting there, but here's the funny part about it. Here's the brilliance of the writing. So he's sitting there and he's going at it. He's going at it. And you notice this wet ass powwow is feeling good to him. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not like the girl, like just because she gets wet, if she is, it doesn't mean she's receiving pleasure. It's like could be a natural bodily response. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you're abused as a child, just because you get an erection, like Todd Bridges, the actor from Different Strokes. He talked about how he was molested by a guy when he was a teenager. And one of the things that Todd Bridges talked about was this conflict he had within himself because he got an erection when he was with this guy was fondling him and molesting him. And he knew it was wrong, but he had to like that's one of the things abuse victims go through. Like, man, if I got pleasure from it, does it mean that I was for it? Does it mean that I was okay with it? You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway, I just had to say that because some people are gonna be like, well, if she was wet, she must have been enjoying it, you know. So you got to say it for some idiots out there. But anyway, so he's there and he's going at it, and then it gets to the part where he's about to climax, right? He about to climax, and but he can't show it. He can't show it. Like there's no pleasure, buddy. You're only here to get them babies out. So he gets to the point where he just grabs the railing on the bed. He's like, so he makes the face and does the whole thing. And then afterwards, he comes down like he just got a crack high. You know what I'm saying? Like he hit that pipe. You know what I mean? And then he has to play it off. Oh, there's no pleasure. I can't look like I'm having a good time. Walks away, gets a towel, wipes himself off, walks out of the room. And then the handmaid's like, the wife is pissed because she really don't like it. Like she's going with it, but she don't like it. You don't want to see your husband screwing this other woman. I don't care if it is for the cause. You know what I'm saying? Uh, but she's like, okay, basically she thinking like, bitch, you can get out of here now. And she's like, but they say I should lay here for it to take effect, So so anyway, so my man, so now mind you, so this is how they getting down, but at the same time, as you go in later episodes, you learn that all these commanders, these heads of households, actually have another whole crib. It's like Michael Irvin's White House, right? Where all the commanders go and just screw different women, have alcohol, all the things and just screwing all these different women strictly for the pleasure of it and kicking it, right? But in society, though, they're acting like they super holy, this, that, and the other, and controlling what everybody else does, especially the women. But these other women, they're not handmaids, they're just hoes. So you can go over there and screw them. And there's nothing to it, right? So they got their own exceptions, you know what I'm saying, for the shit that they say, you know. Meanwhile, also in the show, as it happens in the world, in certain parts of the world, these women, they can't have sexual desires. You know what I'm saying? They can't present that. As a matter of fact, one woman in particular, one character, they removed her clitoris. So she couldn't have she couldn't have pleasure, you know. That's actually done in a lot of cultures around the world. So so that's one of the reasons, you know what I'm saying? And that's why they on their control stuff. And then another reason is like men also don't understand and are often intimidated by a woman who owns her sexuality. And they can't fathom that a woman can enjoy sex just strictly carnally as much as they do, right? Unless that enjoyment is only expressed with them, like and for all history of that woman. So the men mad at Meg for talking about the WAP, the wet ass powwow, you know, when I ain't met a man yet. Like they mad at her, but I ain't met a man yet who isn't gay that don't like wet ass powwow. You want a dry one? I mean, that ain't gonna be fun for you or her. And for her to get wet, unless again, it's a natural body response. Then if she's really gonna be wet, like with pleasure, then that means that she's enjoying it, right? And men don't like they don't really want her, like they want her to enjoy it in this little vacuum, right? But see, I know women who love sex as much as men, and sometimes more. Like sometimes, like, look, I know a woman, rest her soul, she since passed, but friend of mine back in the day. And we was talking about something, and she showed me this guy. She was like, "You see that dude right there?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." She was like, "Yeah, I tapped that ass." Right? And when you think about it, so like she telling me this, like just like a dude. You know what I'm saying? She telling me that, yeah, I tapped that ass. You know what I mean? I had him at the hotel a couple weeks ago, this, that, and the other. I had him. Not he had me, I had him. You know. And when you think about it, women don't have to produce an erection. So between premature ejaculations and ED, like they often left unsatisfied anyway, all the way around. And, a lot of men, they don't think about that, you know. So, but why do these standards of moral judgment not apply to men? Well, because men are the ones typically making up the rules. And because Western culture tends to follow within that historic footprint of white men. Like to me, like for the most part, it's come from white men in their religion who would try to control other people. That's why, you know, and then you get black men believing the same stuff, right? If you think about it, like in slavery, even white men raped what they call property, right? Even the president, what did he say? I could grab him by the powwow, right? Because see, because I control it. You're a celebrity, you can grab him. You can just grab it, right? All these white men in the Epstein files. I ain't seen one brother yet in it. Have you? I haven't seen one. So my point is not that it's only exclusive to white men. I'm saying that as far as I'm concerned, historically speaking, from what I know, this has historically been a thing for them, especially when it comes to religion. Because again, crusades, this, that, and the other, all over the world, they come with their sensibilities full of hypocrisies. So anyway, so as we get ready to start closing this out, I would like men to ponder these questions. If you're a man who thinks like this, because some men do think like this, like a lot of them do. And again, I tried to explain to you why. Again, it goes into the 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 anatomy of it, the act of it, the implications of that act, uh, how it's done, just procedurally, if you will. Uh, and then the control thing, right? So, but if we're gonna stand 10 toes down, it's going to be the same for everybody. But that being said, if you don't think so, then my question to men, like ponder this. Number one, what is the amount of bodies? Like, cause they'd be like, what's your body count, right? What's the amount of bodies, as they put it, or amount of sex partners does a woman have to have before she's called a hoe, before she's considered a hoe? How many? Okay. Number two, Does a high does a woman's high value status only lie in the usage of her powwow? Okay. I saw this other post where it had a photo of Kim Kardashian. She's dated a lot of black celebrity men and stuff. And with it had photos of all these men she's dated, right? And it was like, caption this. And one brother that I know, he wrote team run through, right? So all these men ran through her. You know what I'm saying? Not like to her, she could have been like, I ran through them. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so again, so how many is too many? And are we to follow the same stereotypes like the writer said before, that a man's value is in his money, you know? And if that's the case, what does she get out of that? Because most women I know, they out here making it happen for themselves. They got money, right? Uh, and again, the other question is, so if it's not, if you got a standard for her, why isn't that standard the same for you? Why not? Because do you know how many sexual partners your mama had? Is she a hoe? Your grandmama, is she a hoe? My grandmother, I know for a fact my grandmother had plenty men. You know what I'm saying? She liked to get it in. I got a whole lot of pictures to prove it. Was she a hoe? Who gets to decide that? Now, with that, I offer some advice. When it comes to women, don't ask questions of women that you don't want to answer to or that you can't handle, right? And you can ask any woman, right? Any woman of age, she gonna tell you at some point a man has asked her questions that he really didn't want the answer to. But she knew what to say to him so that she could get by. You know what I'm saying? But if she were to tell you the truth, you know what I'm saying? She know you couldn't handle it. So don't ask questions that you don't want the answer to, or that you know the answer to, or that you know the answer you want to hear. But and if she don't tell you that answer, there's gonna be some problems. Number two, look at your own body count before you judge somebody else's. In reality, it it isn't. It is rarely important what a woman's body count is, unless unless you yourself are a virgin, you know, or you want something similar to what you've had. So if you've had one or two bodies and you want a woman who hasn't had that much experience and y'all could grow y'all experiences with and this, that, and the other, then that's one thing. You got a right to decide that if that's what you want for yourself. Okay. But if you over 10, 20, 50, 11 bodies, right, you don't need to be asking. It ain't your business. Now, if she wants to tell you and y'all just having a conversation because y'all open like that, then cool. I don't really see what purpose it serves other than for you to get in your mind and start imagining shit. Next, the issue relating to sex in reality and to couples, right? It really boils down to what you agree upon as a couple, right? If you look at Clay and Meg, like just as an example, right? If Clay wanted to have other women, you know, he should have been man enough to say that and give her the option as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, because again, her whole thing was, you treating me like a wife, like you acting like I'm her because I'm around your people. And when you have these mood swings as your career is coming to an end, then I've been the one that's been holding you down, like emotionally. She didn't say, I put this wet ass powwow on you. She's like, no, I'm supporting you through these horrible. She don't just mean powwow. She mean holding his head, telling baby it's gonna be okay. Baby, I'm proud of you. You know what I mean? I'm glad the way you stick to it. Yeah, you might not be the player you used to be, but you know what? You still a great player in the NBA. And baby, I'm glad. I'm proud of you. I'm proud. You've had a great career. You got 4 championships. Baby, you gonna be in a Hall of Fame one day, right? That ain't got nothing to do with sex. So that's what she heard about. You know what I'm saying? So, and the thing is, obviously, this is what he said he wanted. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if he wanted to have, like, say, even an open relationship, some people have open relationships. Give her the option, just like he had the option. He want to do his in the dark instead of saying, baby, you know what? Maybe I don't know if I can be faithful. You know what I'm saying? Why don't we talk about having an open relationship? You know what I'm saying? But see, he don't want that because most men will be like, no, I want the powwow to be exclusive to me, but I can go out here and stick and move with impunity. See what I'm saying? But maybe they could have had an open relationship, right? But chances are he wanted her powwow to stay faithful while his peewee out here living his best life. I mean, look, he cheated on her. He deceived her and gave her the impression that there was something else to the relationship, initially, which is why she talked about being around his family, right? And obviously, the other chicks wasn't around his family, right? So, and I know like some dudes, like they thinking to themselves right now, "Well, what about a woman? What about the woman? You ain't gonna talk about them, what they do, how they dress, this, that, and the other." I will also note, to answer your question, that women are also trained in patriarchy. And in many cases, their behavior and how they navigate these spaces is they may use the powwow as a power tool to gain something for themselves, whether it's to get a promotion or something tangible like rent, nails, card note, or whatever. But they've been trained that this is what society tells you have to do. And for some women, it's the sheer power to be able to influence a man, period. Right? How do I know? I know because, like, I used to always wonder, like, what women talked about. Like, like dudes be having conversations and they be talking shop And when men get around other men, especially if they can get mannish, they can talk about a lot of crazy stuff and say a lot of crazy stuff. Well, women are do the same thing. I know this for a fact. And I know it because I've been lucky enough to have some women like open up and explain these things to me, like just from a functional perspective. Like I know women who like name their men like if your name Greg, your name ain't necessarily Greg in their phone, right? They may call you lawyer guy or one one woman told me she dated a guy and she called him mammary gland man. Like, they got all kind of names and stuff. I don't know if that's a culture thing, but I know black and white women who said that they name their men. Um, but they see their place in this world, like and they see their relationships, functionally because they've been trained in the same way. Like, but they don't look at it the same. So like that whole man from Mars, women from Venus, right? Right. I know a woman who said like her biggest thing was oral sex. And she was like, I know I'm really good at it. And what I get out of it, this is what she said, what I get out of it is seeing the man's reaction and the way I make him feel and the way I make him like his eyes roll in the back of his head. And then based on that, like she almost like felt like, yeah, right? Because in other areas in life, she ain't really hardly got no power. You know what I'm saying? Like she don't get to name streets and, she can run for president, but a whole lot of motherfuckers ain't gonna vote for her because she's a woman. So how can I gain power? This is one way I can gain power, right? So, because again, she's trained in the same society. So you can't be mad at her when she uses and exercises her power in the way that she knows how, based on what you told her her value was in the first place. So, in conclusions, as it relates to this subject and the powwow or the box, as my mother would say it, you know, I would just say, hey, man, number one, to men, it's not yours. You can't take it. It does not belong to you. And you need to stop judging the women based on her box activity because it belongs to her and not you. Just as your Pee-wee, your penis, your Johnson, whatever you want to call it belonged to you. You want somebody telling you what to do with yours? No, you don't. And if it means that much to you, then you can get online, order you a sex doll, and feel quite comfortable knowing that you are the only one because you bought the doll, right? The only thing that should be expected between you and another woman is what has been discussed and agreed upon. If you agree that y'all exclusive on this sex thing, then you have a right to hold her accountable to that. She has a right to hold you accountable to that. Otherwise, when you step out of that, otherwise, instead of trying to dominate the powwow, try to respect the powwow, honor the powwow, nurture the powwow. Learn what causes this particular woman you are desiring to want to share the powwow with you. Maybe you'll get more powwow. Dare I say, maybe you'll get the best powwow imaginable. But in order to do that, you got to have your priorities straight. You got to get this control out of your mind and you got to get this judgment out of your mind to judge this woman. So, as a man, I just feel it's my duty to stand up and fight against this patriarchy. I am not immune to these thoughts myself. I was also raised in the same environment. However, I reject it. I reject it outright. And I understand that, hey, women, it's your body. You get to choose what you want to do with it. You know, And again, your honor is going to be based on what you agreed to, you know? And as far as what the woman should do, when people are like, what about the woman? What about the woman? I just assume that, leave that to other women. Because another woman know how to talk to a woman. They know how to deal with other women. They know, what, like a woman may be like, okay, so that's cute outfit, sister. So my question is, what are your intentions with that outfit? What are you trying to attract? Do you just want men to look at your body? Or are you just like, are you stunting a little bit, letting them know, yeah, you got the goods. That's cool. Like, what are your intentions? Like, that's cool. Like, but I'm gonna leave that to other women for the sake of this conversation. I'm gonna leave that to other women, you know? It ain't for us to say. It ain't for men to say. Women got enough problems, and you need them to be your allies. So get up off that patriarchal bull crap. Start respecting these women and allow them to be just as free as you want to be. That is my message for today. Thank you again for joining the For Real Though show. Like, subscribe, comment, do all of the things. Thank you for joining me. Hope you had a good Memorial Day. Y'all stay safe. Peace.